In the heart of the galaxy, beyond rings of glowing gas and silent stars, floated the star palace of Empress Alarine, a shining city in space, larger than most planets. Its towers sparkled like diamonds, and its walls were made of living metal that moved and healed on its own. The Empress ruled over 10,000 worlds, and her word was law. For over 1,000 years, she had sat on her throne, untouched by time. She was not cruel, but she was not warm either. She was clever, proud, and distant, like the stars themselves. Many said she was more idea than person. Every few years, powerful beings from across the galaxy came to ask for her hand in marriage. 10,000 suitors, from warlords to scientists, had tried to win her heart. Some brought riches, others offered rare knowledge or starships. None succeeded. Alarine always found something missing. They all wanted her crown, not her. She was tired of pretending to care. Far away, on a small blue planet called Earth, humans had just been discovered by the wider galaxy. The Varelian Dominion, Alarine's empire, sent a group to observe them and decide if they were ready to join the interstellar community. The leader of this group was Commander Elias Vance, a human officer who had once been a pilot. He had short, black hair, tired eyes, and a calm face that rarely smiled. He had seen enough in life to stop being surprised. He didn't care about royalty, politics, or the games of powerful people. He only took the mission because he was curious, and maybe a little bored. When Elias and his team arrived at the Star Palace, they were greeted by rows of shining soldiers and glowing banners. Trumpets made of light played a song that echoed across space. Other species would have been honored or frightened. Elias looked around and simply said, "Bit much, don't you think?" His team chuckled nervously. The palace guards did not. Inside, the throne room, Empress Alarine sat on a floating seat shaped like a flower in bloom. Her skin shimmered like pearl, and her long hair moved like it was underwater. Around her stood advisors, nobles, and watchers from hundreds of species. All eyes were on Elias. He stepped forward with his hands behind his back, not bowing, not kneeling. He nodded once and said, "I'm Elias Vance, from Earth. Nice place you've got here." The room fell silent. Some nobles gasped. No one had ever greeted the Empress like that. Alarine raised one eyebrow, curious. "You do not bow?" Elias shrugged. "Where I come from, respect is earned, not assumed." A few nobles muttered in anger. The Empress raised a hand, and they fell silent. "I see," she said. "And what is your opinion of our empire, Commander Vance?" He looked around the grand hall, then back at her. "Big, expensive, probably hard to clean." More gasps. This time, even Alarine smiled. Just a little. After the meeting, her advisors gathered in concern. "He is rude," said Lord Sarn, a golden-skinned noble. "No sense of protocol." "He lacks manners," added a tall alien with glowing eyes. Surely not worthy of further attention. But Alarine remained thoughtful. "He does not lie. He does not try to impress. He speaks plainly. That is rare." Still, she told herself it was only curiosity, a small puzzle to pass the time. She sent a quiet request to keep him around longer, for observation. Meanwhile, Elias explored the palace with his team. The halls were filled with living artwork, flying gardens, and machines that whispered to one another. Everything was advanced beyond Earth's dreams, but Elias saw the cracks. Too much perfection felt fake to him. He spoke to workers, not just nobles. He asked questions the others didn't. Why does this place need so many guards? What do they protect it from? Why are there so many rules for smiling and standing? Do people here ever just relax? The workers laughed. No one had ever cared to ask them before. That evening, Alarine watched a recording of Elias talking with her engineers about a ventilation system. He had pointed out a design flaw, a small thing but real, and he had done it with no pride or need for praise. For the first time in many years, the Empress leaned back and wondered, why didn't he want anything from her? She had seen charm, beauty, strength, and genius. She had been loved, worshipped, feared, and admired, but never ignored. And now she couldn't stop thinking about the one human who didn't seem to care who she was. Later, during a quiet dinner, with her closest advisor, she asked, "Do you think humans are dangerous?" The advisor frowned. "They are still young, but unpredictable. Their minds do not work like ours." Alarine nodded. "And what of Elias Vance?" "He is honest. Perhaps too honest, but useful, in small roles." The Empress looked out at the stars through her palace walls. "We shall see." And far below, walking alone in one of the palace gardens, Elias Vance looked up at the stars. He didn't care about thrones or crowns. He had no interest in rulers or romance. But something told him this trip wasn't going to be simple, not at all. The day after Elias Vance returned to his guest room, he found something strange. His schedule had changed. Instead of observing normal palace duties or attending science briefings, he was invited, politely but very clearly, to meet Empress. "Alarine again." Elias raised an eyebrow as he read the message. "Another meeting?" he muttered. "Didn't I already offend her once?" His teammate, Dr. Lin, looked nervous. "Maybe she liked your honesty." "Doubt it," Elias said. "Royal. Types don't usually enjoy being told the truth." Still, orders were orders. So he put on his dark uniform, straightened his collar, and followed a guide through shining halls filled with floating lamps and soft music. This time, the meeting room was smaller and quieter. No crowd, no guards. Just Alarine, sitting on a seat that looked like it had grown from the floor itself. The walls glowed a soft blue. It felt more like a peaceful garden than a throne room. "You came," she said. "You invited me," Elias answered, standing with his hands behind his back. "You speak plainly again," she said, eyes sparkling with curiosity. "I don't know any other way." There was a pause. Not cold, but strange. Like two people trying to read a book in different languages. "I've spoken with 1,000 kinds of people," Alarine said slowly, "but no one has ever spoken to me like you do." "Maybe they're scared," Elias said. She tilted her head. "And you are not?" Elias shrugged. "You don't scare me. You seem lonely, honestly." That caught her off guard. For a moment, she looked almost human. Then she smiled, just barely. "Lonely," she repeated. "That is an interesting word." After that meeting, Elias expected to be sent back to his regular duties. Instead, more invitations came. Not commands, just quiet requests. Would he join the Empress for tea? Would he walk with her through the moon gardens? Would he attend a music display in the Star Dome? Elias didn't understand it. Why him? He wasn't special. He didn't know fancy words or alien traditions. He just listened, and he told the truth. But still, he went. During one quiet evening, as they walked under trees that glowed with golden light, Alarine asked him, "Why did you accept this mission?" "I didn't want to," Elias said honestly. "I was tired. Earth doesn't always listen to its people. But I figured maybe space had something new to teach me." "And has it?" Elias looked around. "Not what I expected. Everything here is beautiful, smart, advanced, but everyone acts so careful." "They must," she said. "My court is full of watchers." "But what about you?" he asked. "Do you like it?" Alarine stopped walking. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then finally, she whispered, "Sometimes, I wish I could just walk without anyone watching, without someone asking for something." Without carrying the weight of 1,000 worlds, Elias nodded. I don't know what that's like, but I do know this. If everyone treats you like a crown, they forget you're a person. She looked at him, surprised. Yes, she said quietly. Exactly. News of these private walks began to spread. Whispers ran through the palace like sparks through dry grass. Why him? Nobles asked. A human, a nobody. He doesn't even try to impress her. He doesn't bow. He doesn't flatter. He doesn't care. This annoyed many. Some felt jealous. Others felt confused. No one could understand why the Empress, who had rejected kings, warlords, and great thinkers, was spending time with a quiet human who had nothing to offer. But Alarine didn't explain herself, and Elias didn't know what was happening either. He just kept showing up because she kept asking. One day, during a visit to the Crystal Archives, Alarine challenged Elias to a memory game. The rules were simple. Each person would look at a picture for 10 seconds, then describe every detail they remembered. She went first. She recalled 142 details. Perfect memory. Elias stared at his picture. After 10 seconds, he said, There was a kid holding a toy, standing next to a broken machine. The toy was smiling. The kid was not. Only 5 details. The nobles watching laughed, but Alarine didn't. She asked softly, Why those details? Because they mattered, Elias said. The rest was background. That kid needed help. The picture told a story. That answer stayed with her all day. The Empress soon gave Elias access to more parts of the palace. He visited engineering rooms, energy cores, and even the royal kitchen. He asked simple questions and gave simple advice. And everywhere he went, people liked him. Not because he was important, but because he listened. He treated everyone the same, guard, cook, or ruler. That was something Alarine had not seen in a very long time. One night in the observatory tower, she asked him, If I were not Empress, who would I be? Elias looked at her and said, I don't know. But maybe that's the real question. Do you know? She didn't answer. Instead, she stared out at the stars, quiet and thoughtful. Back in his quarters, Elias sat at a small desk and recorded his daily report. He paused before speaking. I think, he said slowly, the Empress doesn't need more suitors. She needs someone who isn't trying to win her. He looked at the camera. She's not what I expected. And maybe neither am I. On every world, in every station, people whispered about the human who walked beside the Empress but never bowed. Some thought it was a trick. Others thought it was dangerous. But many, especially common citizens, liked the idea. Someone who didn't want power. Someone who spoke like a normal person. Someone who reminded them that even rulers might want a friend. As for Elias, he still didn't understand why the Empress kept inviting him to walk, talk, and drink starlight tea with her in quiet places. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't want anything. But something about Alarine's presence was different now. She seemed less like a star and more like a person. One morning, Elias was called to the Empress's private chamber. He expected another talk, maybe about culture or politics. But her face was serious today. There's a problem, she said. Is the problem? He asked. There's unrest on the moon city of Corellis, she explained. The workers are refusing to continue their duties. They say they are tired, that the system is unfair. They've sent messages to me asking for change. Elias nodded slowly. And you? I've sent diplomats, she said. They were rejected. The people say they will only speak to someone who listens. Elias looked at her, curious. And you want me to go? Yes, she replied. You're not one of them. You're not one of us. You listen. That is your gift. He scratched his head. You're asking a human officer from Earth to fix a galactic labor dispute? I'm asking you, she said. So Elias went. He traveled to Corellis, a floating city shaped like a spiral shell, glowing above a quiet moon. Inside, workers moved through long, curved halls with heavy steps and tired eyes. He met with groups in open rooms, stood beside engineers in loud factories, and ate with them in metal dining halls. They told him about long hours, broken promises, voices that were never heard. Elias didn't promise change. He didn't make grand speeches. He just listened, and he asked questions that made them think. What would fairness look like to you? What would you change if you could? Why? Do you believe no one cares? He stayed for 5 days. By the end, the people trusted him. Not because he was special, but because he didn't try to lead them. He just tried to understand. When he returned to the Star Palace, he brought with him a short list of requests and a longer list of ideas, simple, reasonable changes the workers wanted. Alarine read the list slowly, then looked at him. "You handled it well," she said. "I didn't handle anything," Elias replied. "I just gave them space to speak." She nodded. "That's more than most do." Soon after, a short broadcast was shared across the Dominion. It showed images from Corellis, people smiling again, machines running, and Elias speaking to a small crowd saying, "Sometimes peace doesn't come from power. It comes from respect." The message went viral. The human who listens, they called him. Back at the palace, Elias found it harder to move unnoticed. More people waved at him in the halls. More nobles watched him with curious or worried eyes. Even some of the Empress's advisors began to whisper, "Should we be concerned? He has no ambition." That makes him harder to predict. He's gaining popularity without trying. But Alarine was calm. "Let them talk," she said. That night she invited Elias to the Star Dome, a place at the very top of the palace, where the roof was clear crystal and the stars looked close enough to touch. They sat in silence for a while, looking at the sky. Then she said, "Do you know how many suitors I've rejected?" "About 10,000, Elias replied. "I've heard. They all wanted something, power, status. Some even wanted my secrets." "And me?" he asked. She smiled gently. "You want nothing, and that's why you're the only one I notice." He looked down. "I didn't mean to be noticed." "I know," she said. "That's what makes it real." There was a quiet moment. Something passed between them, soft and unspoken. But Elias changed the subject. "I still don't belong here." "Maybe not," she said. "But you're the only one who makes me feel like I do." A few days later, while inspecting a new energy hub on the edge of the palace, Elias was greeted by a group of Varelian engineers. "Commander Vance," one of them said. "Thank you." "For what?" "For reminding the Empress that people matter." He looked surprised. She knew that. She just needed someone to say it out loud. That evening, back in his room, Elias recorded his log. "This place is too shiny, too perfect. But under the surface, there are real people with real hearts. And the Empress? She's not cold. She's just forgotten what warmth feels like. I'm not trying to change her. But maybe she's changing herself." He paused, thinking. "And maybe I'm changing too." Far across the stars, on a small station orbiting Earth, Terran leaders watched the reports. One officer leaned back in his chair. "Vance is becoming a symbol. Do we bring him home?" Another shook her head. "Let's wait. He's doing more good than we expected." Meanwhile, back in the palace garden, Alarine walked alone under a violet sky. The flowers glowed around her, and the wind hummed softly. She thought of Elias, his silence, his questions, his way of seeing through her crown to the woman beneath it, and she whispered to herself, "Why is the one who doesn't want me the one I want to stay?" Commander Elias Vance stood at the edge of the Star Palace's upper gardens, looking out over the stars. The view never stopped being amazing, but even with all the beauty, something felt different now. He had been in the Varelian Dominion for many weeks. People respected him, admired him even, but he missed Earth. He missed rain. He missed regular food. He missed walking without being followed or recorded. One evening, as he sat alone in a quiet courtyard, a small silver device buzzed on his wrist. It was a message from Earth's Space Council. Return request confirmed. Shuttle will arrive in 3 days. He stared at the message. Maybe it was time. The next day, he informed Empress Alarine. She was silent at first. Her hands rested lightly on the arms of her throne. "I see," she said softly. "And you've already accepted the recall?" "Yes," Elias replied. "I've been here longer than planned. Earth wants a full report." She nodded slowly. "Of course. I suppose they miss you." "I miss them too," he said. For the first time since they met, a distance grew between them, not in space, but in feeling. Alarine stood. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were not. "Before you leave, there is something I must show you." They traveled together in a quiet transport ship, smaller than a house, fast and smooth. Elias didn't ask where they were going. He simply followed. After a few hours, the ship entered a strange part of space. It shimmered like water, and the stars flickered like candles behind fog. "What is this place?" Elias asked. "A border," Alarine said. "A place between dimensions. Very few know about it. Fewer can enter." Inside the shimmering space was a structure made of crystal and shadow, shaped like a giant ring. Alarine looked at him. "Something is coming from this place. Something not part of our galaxy. My scientists believe it watches us. We call it the Edge." Elias frowned. "Why show me this now?" "Because it doesn't follow our rules," she said. "It cannot be controlled by our technology. Not even I can predict what it wants. But you think differently. You see what others miss." He stared at the strange ring. "It's not attacking?" "No," she said. "But the energy is spreading. Earth is close enough to feel it." Now Elias understood. "This isn't just a visit," he said. "You want help." Alarine looked at him. "I want your help. Not Earth's, yours." Back in the palace, Elias paced in his room. He had one foot on Earth and the other in the Dominion. He had a home waiting for him, but a galaxy asking for him to stay. He opened his message pad and began to record. "This isn't my war. This isn't even my problem. But it's starting to feel like my responsibility. I never asked for this. I just wanted to see what was out here. And now I see it. Beauty, yes. Power, yes. But fear, too. Something is waking up." He paused. "Alarine trusts me. Not as a soldier, not as a subject, just as me." He ended the recording and stared out the window for a long time. The next morning, Elias went to the Empress. "I'll stay," he said. "But only under one condition." Her eyes narrowed. "What is it?" "No more pretending," he said. "No titles, no walls, no games. If you want me here, you get me as I am." Alarine was quiet. Then she smiled gently. "Then I will meet you, as I am too." Together they began working. Elias spoke with Varelian scientists and Earth's best minds. He helped form a mixed team of thinkers, dreamers, and builders from both planets. They studied the Edge from every angle: math, music, memory. Nothing about it made sense. But slowly they started seeing patterns. Elias noticed something strange. "It's not trying to destroy," he said in one meeting. "It's trying to connect." "Connect with what?" someone asked. He pointed to the stars. "With us." News of the strange energy near the edge began to spread. People across the Dominion grew anxious. Many called it a threat. Others called it a message. One news story titled, "The Empress and the Earthman, A New Hope or a New Problem," gained popularity. Alarine didn't comment on it, but she did. Call Elias to the observatory late one night. They sat beneath the glass roof, stars glowing above. "I know you were ready to leave," she said softly. "I was," Elias admitted, "but something pulled me back." "Was it curiosity?" she asked. He looked at her. "No, it was you." Silence stretched between them. Then Alarine stood and walked to the glass. "In all my life, I've never felt small, not once. But when I talk to you, I don't feel like a ruler. I feel like a person again." Elias stood beside her. "Maybe that's all anyone wants, to be seen." She looked at him with quiet eyes. "And you see me?" "Yes," he said, "and I think I always did." Later that week, Elias received a new message from Earth. "Do you wish to return home, Commander?" He stared at the screen. Then he typed a short reply. "Not yet. Something important is happening here, and I need to see it through." Far beyond the palace, the edge pulsed again, brighter than before. The stars shifted slightly, and somewhere deep inside the unknown, a quiet signal echoed back. "We see you too." Every day, the energy ring pulsed a little brighter, and small waves of strange signals reached both Earth and the Varelian Dominion. The signals were not words. They were feelings, flashes of fear, wonder, and something else. Something like curiosity. Commander Elias Vance stood beside Empress Alarine in the Star Dome, watching the stars flicker through the glass. "I think whatever's out there doesn't want to harm us," Elias said, "but it doesn't know how to speak." Alarine nodded. "And if we answer the wrong way, it might misunderstand." "That's why we need more than science," Elias said. "We need understanding." Soon, Elias and Alarine began forming what had never been done before, an alliance between Earth and the Varelian Dominion. A peaceful, shared team of minds, chosen for heart and reason both. Some of Earth's leaders were unsure. Some Dominion nobles were angry, but Alarine made her choice clear. "This is not about power," she said. "It's about connection." And Elias said, "If we don't speak together, we'll never be heard." The new team was called the Listening Circle. They met aboard a special station near the edge, built by both Terran hands and Varelian minds. The station looked simple from outside, a shining disk in the dark. But inside, it was filled with music, lights, and soft tones designed to help thoughts stay clear and calm. Elias and Alarine visited every day. They sat with translators, artists, scientists, and dreamers. They listened to the strange signals and looked for patterns. That's when a breakthrough happened. One of Earth's linguists, a young woman named Mira, discovered that the pulses matched the rhythm of old Terran songs. Not perfectly, but enough to mean something. "It's like they're listening to our broadcasts and sending something back," Mira explained. Elias leaned forward. "What kind of songs?" Mira played one. It was soft, full of wonder, a lullaby. The room fell silent. Even Alarine's voice was low. "They're responding to our oldest language, emotion." With this idea, the circle sent a message, not with words, but with music, light, and color. A peaceful signal, a kind signal, and the ring responded. It pulsed in time with their rhythm. Then, slowly, a new shape appeared in the center, a small sphere of glowing energy floating in the air. It was not solid. It was not alive in the way anyone knew, but it felt alive. Alarine stepped closer. "It's trying to come through. But is it safe?" someone asked. Elias looked at it carefully. It doesn't feel like a threat. It feels lost. The next few days were full of watching and waiting. The sphere didn't move, but it didn't disappear either. It stayed in the center of the ring, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then, one morning, something unexpected happened. Elias woke up with a strange feeling, a clear thought in his mind that didn't belong to him. "We see your kindness." He sat up, surprised. Later, when he arrived at the station, he wasn't the only one. Others, both human and Varelian, reported having the same dream. "The same message. They're reaching out," Elias said. "Through dreams, through thoughts. Maybe this is their way of speaking." But not everyone was pleased. Back in the Dominion, some council members said the Empress was risking too much. On Earth, a few feared that the energy might one day grow dangerous. "There is no proof they mean peace," said one general. But Alarine stood firm. Sometimes peace begins with trust. One evening, while walking alone in the garden tower, Elias found Alarine standing by the edge, looking up. "You ever wonder what your life would have been like," he asked, "if you weren't the Empress?" "All the time," she said. "But I never had the chance to choose." "You do now." She looked at him. "And what would I choose?" He smiled softly. "That's not for me to answer." Alarine stepped closer. "And what about you? Would you choose Earth or this?" Elias thought for a moment. Then he said, "I used to think Earth was home. Now I think home is where I feel understood." She looked at him quietly. "Then maybe we've both been looking for the same thing." That night, the energy ring pulsed brighter than ever before. A soft vibration filled the station, and the sphere began to move. It floated slowly toward the glass window, then stopped. All the lights flickered gently, and another message filled. The minds of the listening circle. "You listened. Now we will show you who we are." The light inside the ring twisted, turning into a gentle image. Waves, stars, memories. A history told, not in words, but in feeling. A peaceful people. Curious. Afraid of being misunderstood. Elias whispered, "They were waiting for someone to see them." Alarine nodded. "And we did." The next day, a joint message was sent to Earth and the Dominion. It showed the peaceful images, the shared dreams, and the new bond being formed. Elias stood beside Alarine as she made the final statement. "This is not a warning. This is a welcome. The universe is larger than anyone, throne or planet, and we, together, have chosen to listen." Across the stars, many cheered. Some still doubted. But a door had opened. Between worlds, between minds, between people who once believed they were too different to understand one another. And at the center of it all stood a human who didn't care for power, and an empress who had finally found someone who saw her. Later that night, in the quiet of the garden tower, Elias sat with Alarine beneath a sky full of stars. "No speeches," he said. "No titles. No crown," she replied, smiling. "Just two people, talking like old friends." The glowing sphere that once floated at its center had faded, but not in fear. It had left a parting message, a final thought that echoed gently in the minds of the listening circle. We are not alone. And now, neither are you. For the first time in many generations, the Varelian Dominion and Earth had made something new, a true connection beyond language, borders, or species. People across the galaxy spoke of it with wonder, and at the center of this great change stood Commander Elias Vance, the man who never tried to lead, never tried to impress, and never once bowed to a throne. Back on Earth, celebrations began. News channels showed images of Elias standing beside Empress Alarine, speaking to leaders from both sides. Kids in schools, studied the story of the listening circle. Songs were written, statues were planned, but for Elias, none of it felt real. "I didn't do this for history," he told a reporter. "I just didn't want anyone to feel ignored." When someone asked if he was returning to Earth for good, he only said, "I haven't decided yet." Meanwhile, Empress Alarine stood before the Grand Council of the Dominion. All the nobles, elders, and advisors were gathered to hear what she would say. She looked out over them, calm and strong. "For centuries," she began, "we ruled by fear of the unknown. We shut our borders. We listened only to ourselves. But a single voice, a voice that came not to rule but to understand, has reminded us who we truly are." She paused, then added, "It is time I step aside, not because I am tired, but because the galaxy needs something new." The hall gasped. That evening, Elias stood beside her in the garden tower, where soft lights danced across the trees. "You're really doing it?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "Not giving up, just letting go." "What happens next?" "A new council will be chosen, one with voices from all parts of the Dominion. And Earth will be the first to join as an equal." Elias smiled. "That's big." She looked at him. "You started it." "No," he said quietly. "You chose to listen." Later that week, a final ceremony was held. It wasn't grand or loud. It was peaceful, simple. Alarine stepped onto a smooth crystal platform and removed the silver crown from her head. She placed it gently on a pedestal at the center of the hall. Light poured around it, but no one moved to take it. It would stay there, not for a ruler, but as a reminder. Power means nothing without kindness. Elias watched from the side. As people cheered and music filled the hall, a young officer came up to him. "You were the first person to ever say no to the Empress," she said with a laugh. "Now look where we are." Elias shook his head. "I didn't say no, I just said I wouldn't pretend." "And she still chose you," the officer said. He didn't reply, but something inside him felt full. Not pride, not victory, just peace. When the ceremony ended, Elias stepped out into the courtyard garden alone. The stars above were quiet, twinkling gently like a soft song. He heard footsteps. Alarine appeared beside him, dressed not in royal robes but in a simple gown. She looked different, lighter, freer. "No crown today?" he asked. "No need," she said. "I'm no longer the Empress." He smiled. "Then who are you?" She thought for a moment. "Just Alarine, a traveler, a student, a friend." "And what will you do now?" "I want to visit planets I've only read about," she said. "I want to speak without guards watching. I want to feel what it's like to be unknown." She looked at him. "Will you come with me?" Elias looked up at the stars. "I don't have a throne. I don't have a title. But I think I've found something better." He looked back at her. "Yeah, I'll go." And so they left the palace, not as Empress and Commander, but as two people who had once stood on opposite sides of a galaxy and found something in each other that neither of them expected. A year later, a small group of children on a peaceful world ran up to two travelers sitting near a waterfall. "Are you really the human from the stories?" one asked Elias. He laughed. "What stories?" "The ones where the Empress falls in love with the one man who didn't care about being important." Elias looked at Alarine. She smiled. "I don't think he didn't care," she said. "He just cared about something else." "Like what?" asked another child. Alarine and Elias looked at each other. Then he said, "Truth, kindness, listening, and not kneeling," she added with a quiet laugh. The children giggled and ran off to play. As the sun set, Elias leaned back on the soft grass and looked at the glowing sky. "I never planned for any of this." "Neither did I," Alarine said, resting beside him. But sometimes the best journeys start by accident. Do you miss being the Empress? No, she said. I miss the garden tower sometimes, but I have something better now. What? She reached for his hand. Someone who saw me, not my crown. Elias smiled. You were always more than a crown. And far away, in a quiet part of space, the ring at the edge remained still, but alive, waiting for the next song, the next story, and the next voice that would dare to listen.